Hi, I am Ms. Volgotha, and this is my channel, Deadly World Events. Today we are bringing an event that could have developed into a tragedy of immense proportions. The Gschnitz Valley, nestled deep within the Austrian state of Tyrol, has long been a sanctuary of serene alpine beauty. Its steep green slopes and the gentle murmur of the Schnitzbach Creek have defined life here for generations. But on a fateful Monday evening, that tranquility was violently shattered. The very forces of nature that sculpted this idyllic landscape turned against it with terrifying force, as severe thunderstorms unleashed their watery fury upon the mountains. The ground, saturated and unstable, gave way. A torrent of mud, rock and debris descended upon the unsuspecting village below, a grim and powerful reminder that even the most peaceful corners of our world are subject to the planet's immense and unpredictable power. The aftermath paints a scene of profound desolation, a landscape brutally remade in a matter of moments. What were once charming homes, their gardens filled with the colours of summer, are now partially submerged in a thick grey slurry of earth and rock. The open-air watermill museum, a proud testament to the region's heritage and its harmonious relationship with the natural flow of water, now lies in ruins, its structures splintered and swept away by the deluge. The very air, usually crisp and clean, hangs heavy with the scent of wet earth and the silence of devastation, a stark contrast to the vibrant life that filled the valley just hours before. The mudslide has not just moved earth, it has displaced history and security. The trigger for this catastrophe was a meteorological event of extreme intensity. The thunderstorms that rolled over Tyrol were not the gentle summer showers that refreshed the land. They were concentrated, violent downpours that overwhelmed the natural drainage systems of the mountainside. The soil, unable to absorb the sheer volume of water, transformed from a solid foundation into a fluid, unstoppable mass. This slurry, gathering momentum as it tore down the steep inclines, became a formidable force of destruction. It followed the path of least resistance, channeling itself through gullies and streams, swelling the Schnitzbach Creek until it burst its banks and added its own watery chaos to the unfolding disaster. This event serves as a stark illustration of the delicate balance that governs these mountain ecosystems. The Alps, while appearing timeless and unyielding, are in a constant state of flux, shaped by water, ice and gravity. Human settlement in these areas exists in a precarious partnership with these powerful natural processes. The mudslide in Gschnitz is not an isolated act of malice from nature, but a consequence of specific conditions aligning. Intense rainfall on vulnerable terrain. It underscores a difficult truth, that the magnificent landscapes we cherish also harbour the potential for immense and sudden destruction, a power that demands our constant respect and vigilance. As the scale of the disaster became terrifyingly clear, a complex and urgent rescue operation was set into motion. With roads and hiking trails completely obliterated by the flow of mud and debris, conventional access to the upper reaches of the valley was impossible. The Austrian armed forces were mobilized, and their Black Hawk helicopters became the lifeline for those stranded. These powerful machines, slicing through the storm-laden air, began the methodical and perilous task of airlifting people to safety. Around 100 individuals, a mix of local residents and hikers caught in the remote mountain huts, were trapped by the sudden onslaught, their escape routes erased by the earth itself. The Bremerhütte, the Innsbrucker Hütte, and the Tribulan-Hütte. These refuges, typically offering shelter and respite to weary mountaineers, had suddenly become isolated prisons of rock and wood. Hikers who had sought shelter from the storm now found themselves cut off from the world, surrounded by impassable terrain. The helicopter crews flew mission after mission, battling challenging weather conditions to reach these remote locations and ferry the stranded one group at a time to the safety of nearby emergency centres. Each successful flight was a small victory against the overwhelming forces of nature. For the residents of Gschnitz awaiting their turn to be evacuated, the instructions from authorities were clear and vital for their survival. They were ordered to remain indoors, seeking refuge on the upper floors of their homes to stay above the rising mud and water. Basements and underground garages, which could rapidly fill with the suffocating slurry, were to be avoided at all costs. An equally important directive was to stay away from the dams and banks of the Schnitzbach Creek, which remained dangerously unstable and at risk of further collapse. These directives were not just suggestions. They were critical measures designed to prevent any loss of life in an already catastrophic situation. There were no reported injuries or fatalities. While the material damage was immense, the human cost was mercifully avoided. This success speaks volumes about the professionalism and courage of the emergency responders and the discipline of the affected community. In the face of overwhelming destruction, the coordinated effort to preserve human life stood as a beacon of hope. The helicopters departing the ravaged valley carried not just evacuees, but a powerful story of human resilience and cooperation in the darkest of hours. The true cost of the Gschnitz mudslide cannot be measured in monetary terms alone. It is etched into the very fabric of the community and the land itself. Lucas Braunhofer, the local fire department commander, described the scene with solemn accuracy, stating that there has been a great deal of damage. This is a profound understatement. Homes that have stood for generations, sheltering families and holding memories, are now scarred and uninhabitable, their foundations compromised and their lower floors filled with a solidifying mass of earth. The cleanup will be a monumental task, requiring heavy machinery and countless hours of labor to simply reclaim what was lost in an instant. The devastation extends beyond private property to the shared cultural heritage of the region. The open-air watermill museum was a unique and beloved institution, a place where visitors could connect with the ingenuity of the past and the sustainable use of natural resources. The mudslide showed no reverence for this history, tearing through the site and reducing the carefully preserved mills to little more than splintered timber and wreckage. The loss of this museum is a blow to the valley's identity, erasing a tangible link to the ancestors who first harnessed the power of the Gschnitzbach Creek. Rebuilding it will be a challenge, and some of its historical essence may be lost forever beneath the mud. Elmar Rizzoli, the head of Tyrol's Centre for Crisis and Disaster Management, has assured the public that authorities are maintaining a constant watch over the volatile situation. The immediate danger may have passed, but the risk has not vanished. The ground remains saturated and unstable, and further rainfall could trigger subsequent slides. Crisis management teams are in continuous contact with all emergency organisations, coordinating efforts to assess the damage, ensure the stability of the remaining structures, and plan the long and arduous road to recovery. This ongoing vigilance is crucial to prevent further tragedy and to guide the community through the difficult months that lie ahead. This event in Austria is not an anomaly in the wider Alpine region. It echoes a similar incident that occurred just 2 months prior in the neighbouring country of Switzerland. There, in the village of Blatten, a massive chunk of rock and ice broke away from a glacier, prompting the precautionary evacuation of some 300 people. These events, occurring in close succession, are not mere coincidences. They are symptoms of a changing climate where warming temperatures are destabilizing ancient glaciers and permafrost, making the mountainsides more prone to collapse. The scars on the Gschnitz Valley are a local tragedy, but they are also a global warning. The grim events in Gschnitz and Blatten force us to confront a difficult reality. As our planet's climate continues to shift, such natural disasters are likely to become more frequent and more intense. We can no longer view them as rare, unpredictable acts of God. Instead, we must see them as foreseeable consequences of a changing environment and prepare accordingly. The key to survival and recovery lies not in preventing the inevitable, but in building resilient communities that can withstand and adapt to these powerful forces. This requires a fundamental shift in how we plan, build, and live in these beautiful yet vulnerable landscapes, moving from a reactive to a proactive stance. One of the most critical tools in our arsenal is the implementation of sophisticated early warning systems. By using advanced geological and meteorological monitoring, we can track soil saturation levels, seismic tremors, and intense weather patterns in real time. These systems can provide the crucial window of time needed to alert communities and execute orderly evacuations before a disaster strikes. When linked to clear, automated public address systems and mobile alerts, this technology can save lives, transforming a potential catastrophe into a managed emergency. Investing in such predictive technologies is not a luxury. It is an essential component of modern-day survival in mountainous regions. Alongside prediction, we must focus on better management of the element that so often triggers these events: water. This involves engineering solutions such as the construction of check dams and debris flow barriers in high-risk gullies, which can slow the momentum of a slide and capture much of the destructive material. It also means investing in improved land management practices, such as reforestation on steep slopes. The root systems of trees are incredibly effective at binding the soil and absorbing excess water, creating a natural defense against erosion and landslides. Protecting and expanding our forests is one of the most effective long-term strategies for mitigating risk. Ultimately, resilience is built upon a foundation of robust infrastructure and informed community planning. Roads and bridges must be designed to withstand flooding and debris flows, and critical services must have contingency plans in place. Zoning laws must be strictly enforced to prevent new construction in high-risk areas. Furthermore, continuous public education is vital, ensuring that every resident understands the risks they face and knows precisely what to do when a warning is issued. The tragedy of Göschnitz must serve as a catalyst for action, compelling us to forge a new, more respectful and cautious relationship with the mighty landscapes we call home.